What say you?
I'm with you. I mean, listen, let's be very clear about something. This fight, Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler, it is impossible to dislike. I mean, on its own, it is absolutely perfect. These are two super elite lightweights. Obviously, they have their own skill sets, and we've told that story from each side a million times. That fight is going to be amazing. And that's the kind of fight that if it's not on a card with a bigger fight, probably won't do the same kind of buy rate despite the stakes and the significance. So that's going to be one that, depending on where they put it, BC, that could be a bit of a hardcore delight. That's where being a hardcore fan gets rewarded. When the casuals miss out on the good stuff, you're locked in and ready to take it in, and it is going to be quite interesting for that reason alone. But I don't like how this is going for Dustin Poirier, because now he's in a spot, BC, where he has to beat the same guy back-to-back, which is not the end of the world, but now he's got to win 2 more fights to get the title. He has to beat Conor, and then if he's given a title shot, he has to win that fight as well, when you can make a pretty clear case. When Khabib retired, it should have been honored, and when it was honored, Dustin Poirier should have gotten it when he beat Conor McGregor. By the way, if you look at where they're ranked, you have Chandler and Oliveira 3rd and 4th. Dustin Poirier is sitting at number 1. How are you having a title shot where you're having guys 3 and 4, which is not a scandal that can happen sometimes, but the guy sitting at number 1 is coming off of a win? That's a newly claimed position, and he's not in the stakes. So listen, I'm not going to complain about the fight. I think Dustin Poirier is probably pretty happy with the payday, BC, but I got to say, I think any title plans really needed to involve him.
Yeah, this feels like a bit of a debacle, and I don't think historically it will be remembered as a debacle. Why? Because this division is so historically deep and loaded right now that, again, any combination of fighters in the top 6, 7, 8, it's going to be incredible. It's going to feel like a title fight. But the fear here, Luke, is that if Chandler or Oliveira win, and then let's say they lose to Dustin Poirier next, it's going to feel like an unnecessary transitional title reign. Just like if Poirier should, let's say, lose to Conor in the trilogy, I'm no Poirier super fan, but I'm going to feel bad for everything he's accomplished that he didn't rightfully wear the title when he had the chance. I know people say, well, he lost to Khabib. He had his chance. Okay, everybody lost to Khabib and got smashed in the end. Yet Dustin bounced
literally
back.
Everyone he fought fucking did that.
So yet Dustin bounced back, beat Dan Hooker in a 5-round thriller, and then did to Conor McGregor what no one had done previously, and now he's not fighting for the title. So I don't want to miss the nuance here, though, and I do want to read a tweet that Ariel Helwani had, and I appreciate him being on the inside with the sources. He said there was once a hope for McGregor-Poirier 3 that it would get done on May 15th, and Luke, I'm assuming that means there was hope for it to be for the vacant title on May 15th. But it's taken longer than hoped or expected, so they moved on from that a while ago, sources say. It won't happen on June 12th, Ariel saying, because that's Figueiredo Moreno on that card. So the latest hope is that we get the trilogy between Conor and Dustin on the July 10th card. We'll see. Obviously, Luke, if it was an International Fight Week main event, no one's going to complain it's going to be a super fight. So the key question within that knowledge from Ariel's reporting, and I really want your opinion on this, was Dustin offered the chance to fight either Chandler or Oliveira for the vacant title, and did he in fact turn that down for the money, prestige, and opportunity that comes with fighting Conor McGregor in a trilogy, which would be the biggest fight this calendar year, and really one of the biggest selling pay-per-views of all time?
We need to talk to him. We need to talk to him if we can, because that's a great question. I think it's a central question. Here we are saying, oh, yeah, UFC should have done it, and I do think that they should have. But perhaps the fact that they tried and Dustin Poirier said no. Here is my hunch on this, BC. Here is my hunch. My hunch is that he wanted the trilogy fight with McGregor. Poirier did. He wanted that to happen, and he wanted that for a title. I think that's what he wanted. Not just the one before, but now this one. I mean, he was saying afterwards on Morning Kombat and every other place he went, I'm the champion. Sorry, I fully consider myself the champion. Where's my belt? To that point, quite literally, he was saying that. And I wonder if UFC, by virtue of the delay in negotiations, and who knows where that's coming from, maybe Dustin, maybe Conor, maybe both, they want to get that thing moving. But to me, it's like, this was a problem you probably could have solved the first time. When UFC 254 came around, he said, I'm retired. If you had listened, and I understand, the promoter had a absolute opportunity, and they should be afforded one, to do what they can to secure the talent for the fights that people want to see. I understand. But had you honored that and then given it to him when that fight happened, we wouldn't be in this mess we are in today. So listen, Dustin Poirier's not suffering. Conor McGregor's not suffering. The fans aren't suffering, and neither is Chandler and Oliveira. We should be very clear about that. This is a bit of a first world problem kind of scenario. At the same time, I do feel like there could have been a better way we could have arrived at today's position.
I know. It's like I can't complain, yet it's still pretty embarrassing the way this kind of was handled. And look, I hate interim titles more than anyone. Yet at the very least, Conor, Dustin too, should have had an interim title on it, especially if they really weren't sure on Khabib. And then the moment they were sure, you go, okay, interim champion Dustin Poirier, now you're full champion. Get ready to see him in July against Conor for the belt. And oh, by the way, Chandler Oliveira would have made a fantastic #1 contender scenario. Luke, we are talking about the power players at 155, and one name not in this discussion, which was just the other day when we were referencing rumors that the idea that Chandler could be facing Justin Gaethje. Where do you think he fits in now that we sort of know where the top 4-ish lightweights are headed over the next 3, 4, 5 months?
I don't know what they're going to do with that, because that was a fight that made a little bit more sense to me, although it left Oliveira out in the cold a little bit, which was not good for him, but it at least made more sense at the top. This gets you to a space where you've got #1 busy. You've got, I think, 3 and 4 busy. I don't know if I have my rankings up. Oh, yes, I do. And so you've got Gaethje sitting at 2. Well, he already beat Ferguson sitting at 5, so that's not going to work. #6 is McGregor. We know what he's up to. After that, it's RDA and Dan Hooker and Beneil Dariush. So maybe they go Dariush because obviously he's looked tremendous of late. Maybe they go Dan Hooker because they're both coming off of losses. I don't exactly know what you do here, but it's not. I think Gaethje was hoping for a more high-profile inside the top 5 kind of situation, but that doesn't really work this time. So he's going to have a tougher road.
And Dariush does have Tony Ferguson coming up. So to your point,
yes, sorry,
maybe Hooker Gaethje. God, Hooker Gaethje would be violence personified.
Yeah, if you're Dan Hooker, do you take that fight?
I was just going to say, how many more times can we throw Hooker into the lion's den and hope he doesn't get a limb chewed off, Luke?
If I'm Dan Hooker, after all the abuse that I've taken, I'm looking more for, like, Dan Hooker's at 8, RDA sitting at 7. I like that fight. It's not like fighting RDA is like, some walk in the goddamn park. He'll put it on you too. But I just don't know that the violence quotient would be as predictably high as it would be like it is for someone like Justin Gaethje. And he's had, 2 rough goes of it. And remember all that quarantine time? Like, I feel like if you're going to be away from your family because of the way the rules are, and I don't envy his situation, it's tough, you got to make sure you take the right one for the right moment. Dude, a win over RDA, that's a big deal. And I think is a more manageable physical task.
Dude, if I'm Hooker, I'm asking for videographer Mike Jackson, former CM Punk Slayer. That's what I'm asking for, okay? A get-well fight, indeed. I did want to add this, though. I'm being critical of Dana because I think the way this was handled was a little bit messy and sloppy and not how they typically do it. They typically make swift, fast, hard decisions and just say, deal with it, right? Deal with the consequences. And this was sort of very transparent in their intentions and why it was dragged out. But at the same time, Luke, one, they had a lot of financial reason to drag it out because we can't underscore what the potential of Khabib Conor 2 means to their bottom line at the end of the day, whether we like that or not. But I am glad that Conor, coming off of a knockout loss, even though he's going to get rewarded with the Poirier fight because it's great business, I didn't necessarily want to see Conor fight for the title coming off of a knockout loss. So I am happy that didn't happen. But Luke, I want to hear from Dustin Poirier, as do you. But if we're just guessing, what do you think the difference in money is for him between a potential opportunity to fight either Chandler or Do Bronx for the title or the trilogy with Conor? Is it light years the difference, if you had to guess?
So but it's only different if there's some kind of provision in the contract that he has that, that stipulates something about main events or if he has pay-per-view points. Because if he just got a bump in pay and it's what he would get no matter what, whether he fought Chandler or whether he fought McGregor, maybe he wants to fight McGregor because that matters more to him. He didn't seem that interested in fighting Mike Chandler before. Remember that after the post-fight press conference? Seemed a little bit like, eh. So maybe there's something to be said for that. So if he's getting pay-per-view points, then the answer is obvious. He's just going to get a shitload more money doing that, and you get the prestige of beating McGregor 2 or 3 times. I mean, that's pretty game-changing. If you're not a number one contender at that point, then you just close the whole thing. But again, we need to talk with him to see exactly where his priorities sort of sort in this whole arrangement.
This is not just another streaming app. This is football, and This is the best of CBS Sports on Paramount Plus. Live sports, breaking news, and a mountain of entertainment. Now streaming.